$1,000 a month. Say that number out loud in the United States, and you'll get the same reaction almost every time. That's not a salary, that's a problem. In most American cities, $1,000 doesn't even cover a single month's rent. It's the number people are afraid of, not the one they live on. Now say the exact same number in Russia. $1,000 a month. That's around 78,000 rubles at the summer 2026 exchange rate. And here, it isn't poverty. It's ordinary. In fact, it's just about what a typical Russian actually earns. So how does the same $1,000 become a crisis in one country and a normal, functioning month in another? That's what this is about. Not Russia is cheap. Not Russia is poor. Something more interesting than either: purchasing power. One number, two completely different lives. Let's start with the paycheck. You'll often read that the average salary in Russia is around 100,000 rubles a month, roughly $1,300 in mid-2026. And that number is real. But averages lie. A handful of wealthy regions, Moscow, the oil and gas north, quietly pull that figure way up. The number that describes an actual, typical person is the median, about 73,000 rubles. That's the line where half the country earns more and half earns less. Convert it, and you land almost exactly on our $1,000 a month. And here's the first thing outsiders get wrong. Russia isn't one price tag. Someone in Moscow and someone in a small regional city are living in two different economies. In Moscow, that $1,000 can disappear on rent alone. Far from the capital, the same money is a comfortable month, with something left over. So let's actually spend it. Rent, utilities, the metro, a week of groceries, the coffee habit, line by line. Where does $1,000 really go in Russia in 2026? Let's find out. Let's start where the money goes first: the roof over your head. Rent is the biggest single bite out of any budget, and it's where that idea from the first half really bites. It depends entirely on where you are. In Moscow, a one-bedroom flat rents, on average, for around 58,000 rubles a month, about $750 in the summer of 2026. Look at that number. On our $1,000 budget, Moscow rent alone swallows 3/4 of it before you've bought a single loaf of bread. That's the capital. Now step a few hundred miles out. Across Russia as a whole, the average one-bedroom rents for about 30,000 rubles, under $400. And in smaller towns and regional cities, you can find one for 8 to 15,000 rubles a month. Same country, less than a fifth of the Moscow price. So for our typical earner, living where most people actually live, rent takes maybe 15 to 25,000 rubles, a real chunk, but not the whole paycheck. Next, utilities. Heating, hot and cold water, electricity, building upkeep, the bill Russians call kommunalka. For a small flat, that's roughly 5 to 7,000 rubles a month, a little more in Moscow, a little less in the regions. Winters here are long, but heating is central and heavily subsidized, so it rarely becomes the monster it is in the West. Then getting around. A single ride on the Moscow metro is 90 rubles in 2026, about $1.15. Tap a Troika card, and it drops to 75. Ride every day, and a month of public transport lands around 2,500 rubles. For a world-class subway, that's pocket change. And staying connected. This is where foreigners genuinely don't believe the numbers. A mobile plan with plenty of data runs 400 to 600 rubles a month. Home internet starts around 500. Put them together, and you're paying under 1,000 rubles, barely $12, for phone and internet combined. So add up the fixed costs: the roof, the warmth, the ride, the signal. In a regional city, the hard part of the month is handled for well under half our budget. In Moscow, rent alone already broke it. Everything else, the part that actually feels like living, comes next. And that starts with food. So the roof is paid for. Now the part that actually feels like living, food. And this is where the numbers start to feel almost unfair. Start with the basics. In a Russian supermarket in 2026, a liter of milk runs about 100 rubles, a little over $1. A loaf of fresh bread, 60 to 80. A dozen eggs, around 140. A kilo of potatoes, 65 rubles. A kilo of chicken, under 500. To a Western shopper, that receipt looks like a misprint. Put it together, and a full week of groceries for two people comes to roughly 4,000 to 5,000 rubles. Cook at home, like most people do, and a whole month of food sits at a small fraction of our budget. not the thing that breaks the month. And it gets better at the market. The Rynok, the open-air produce market, is where Russians actually buy fruit, vegetables, honey, and pickles straight from the crate, in season, for even less. Potatoes, cabbage, tomatoes, apples, piled high and cheap. Now, eating out. This is where a Western wallet finally recognizes something. A meal at a fast food chain runs 400 to 600 rubles. A lunch at a simple cafe, 600 to 700. And the great modern ritual. Coffee to go now averages about 230 rubles, roughly $3. Familiar territory. Here's the honest part. Not everything is cheap. Imported cheese, branded goods, a nice restaurant dinner in Moscow that can run 5,000 rubles for two, and suddenly you're paying Western prices. The cheapness lives in the basics, the potatoes, the bread, the home cooking. The lifestyle stuff, the eating out, the coffee habit, that's where $1,000 month can quietly slip away. But cook at home, shop at the market, and food is the easy part. Add it to the roof and the utilities, and our typical regional earner is still comfortably inside the budget, with money left to spend or save. In Moscow, it's tighter, but it works. So we've paid for the flat, kept the lights on, ridden the metro, filled the fridge, and even bought the coffee. The question now is the one everyone actually came here for. At the end of the month, what's left? And how does all of this stack up against $1,000 in the West? So, the end of the month. We've paid the rent, kept the lights on, ridden the metro, filled the fridge, and even bought the coffee. For our typical regional earner, on a median wage of around 73,000 rubles, here's what's left. After the essentials, a cushion, money to put aside, or spend on something that isn't a bill. Not rich, but not underwater. A normal month, that closes in the black. In Moscow, it's tighter. Rent eats most of the paycheck, and the cushion thins to almost nothing. But even there, it works. People live on it, every day. Now, the comparison everyone's been waiting for. Take that exact same $1,000 back to the West. In the United States in 2026, the median rent for a one-bedroom apartment is about $1,500 a month. Read that again. $1,000 doesn't cover the rent. Not the food, not the transport, not the phone, just the rent, and you're already $500 short. In the UK, a one-bedroom runs around £1,100, roughly $1,400. Same story. So here's the whole video in one line. The same $1,000 is a fraction of a single bill in the West and a complete, functioning month in Russia. That's the thing the number alone never tells you. Purchasing power. A salary isn't a figure on a payslip. It's what that figure actually buys in the place where you spend it. Now, the honest footnote, because this cuts both ways. This does not mean Russians are richer. A phone, a laptop, a flight abroad, a foreign holiday, those cost the same as anywhere or more, and in dollar terms, wages are lower. What's cheap is the local life, the rent, the potatoes, the metro, the bread. What's expensive is the global life. But strip all of that away, and you're left with the picture we started with. A jar of pickles on a shelf. A loaf of bread for under $1. A metro ride for $1.15. A whole month of an ordinary life, covered by a number that, on the other side of the world, wouldn't even keep a roof over your head. $1,000 a month. A problem in one country. An ordinary Tuesday in another. Same number, two completely different worlds. If that shifted how you see it, subscribe. There's a whole country to explain, one everyday thing at a time.